The Music of Your Life with me, Darren Clark. Was your family a musical family as you were growing up?
No, not really. My mum used to sing in the clubs. She used to do the circuit kind of around West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, you know, them, like, you know, the good old days of clubs. But I never got a chance to, I've seen her sing, but I never got a chance to see her sing doing her job, if you like.
What do you remember about music when you were young?
Sunday mornings, my dad used to have the radio on before he were going out for a few beers, like they did, the old guys. Used to play like all the Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra. Listen to all that stuff, obviously, over the years. I do like that stuff. But
you're a rocker, aren't you?
I am a rocker.
You're a rocker. So where did this early love for the rock music come? Was it any influence or anything like that?
To be honest with you, mate, we actually, the band started when we was at school, so we're talking about 14 years old, and basically he was the bass player, a guy called Martin Hawthorne, who started the band up, and he came to me one day, just totally out of the blue, and says, "I've heard you sing a bit, do you want to be in a band?" And that's basically how it started.
But even before that then, how could you sing?
Well,
where did they know you could sing? Was it just do school or
yeah,
something
school,
like that?
you know, school plays and things. The last school I went to was an all boys school, so to get up and sing in an all boys school was a little bit embarrassing. You just don't do it. But my middle school and the infant school that I used to go to, the school plays and stuff, like Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. We once did, although it wasn't a musical play, but we once did Snow White and the Nine Dwarfs because the people at audition were that good. They had to invent two new dwarfs.
What were the names? You
I can't remember.
Two new dwarfs. I love it. So your mother was a singer. What about other members of family or the cousins or whatever?
No, I don't have anybody else in the family really. Although my youngest son, who's just gone 21, this is just totally out of the blue as well, only in the last couple of years, he started doing a bit of singing, and I was absolutely shocked when I first heard a recording that he did. I was like, wow, you can...
I'm going to say in a nice way. Shocked
in a nice way, like a really good singer, you know. Much better than me. I'm a shouter, he's a singer.
We'll come to how good you were in the other sections. Looking at your song choices, when I asked for your song choices, you had T-Rex, Get It On. What was the thought? Where did that was the first record you bought, wasn't it?
That was the first record I bought, obviously, many, many moons ago. I was one of the supermarkets locally used to have a record section, and they had some stuff that were on offer. It was something like 20p for the single. Yeah, for the single. And I bought it. I think I liked the cover of it as part of it.
Yeah.
But I'd heard the song as well.
Yeah.
And I bought it, and it kind of, I wouldn't say I was really into any kind of music other than rock music. That was the first. Do you know, I looked at music in general right across the board. You know, I could watch somebody on the TV singing like an opera song, or I could watch like somebody in a musical.
Yeah.
I wasn't into that kind of stuff, but music it was a wide range for me.
Yeah.
I'd listen to anything, but when I heard rock, that was when I decided.
That's kind of when it perked your interest.
Yeah, that really perked me up into wanting to listen to music more, yeah.
And you said that your second song was Anything by Thin Lizzy. Where did the Thin... Was it just because of the rock thing?
Again, yeah, well, in Bradford, where I was born and raised, do you remember the venue St George's Hall?
I do, yes.
It's still going now.
Which you've played there.
We have,
Excalibur, we'll cover that later.
A couple of times, yeah. But our local venue, we used to go, it was brilliant. They used to put rock bands on at least once a week, and there were probably 2 a week, most times. So, we'd finish school, go home, have your dinner, money that you'd saved up, buy a bottle of cider or something from the off licence, and drink it walking down into the city centre to go to St George's Hall. And I've watched so many bands there.
We'll come to that in the next section. What we'll do, we'll play your first two songs first. The band started quite early. You said you were 14 when you were still at school.
Yeah, we was in the second to last year at school. We just finished as first form of your upper school.
All right, yeah.
I know things are different now, aren't they? They don't do schools how they used to do. We were infant, middle, upper.
So you're slightly... How old are you?
I was born in 1966.
66, right, okay. So
are you trying to work that out?
No. It was just for the schools, because that was the first year of GCSE.
Right.
So you were still 11 plus and O levels, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Not that I got many of them, but yeah.
No, let's just, first of all, the band's name Excalibur. Was that the original? Was that chosen right at the beginning?
It wasn't the original name, no, Darren. We actually, I mean, it's a... can I swear on this?
Yeah, you can go on, it's all right.
Well, it wasn't really swearing. I'm going to say it's a shite name. We were originally... We never did a gig under this name, but we were originally going to be called Wild Panther.
Oh, right. It's a great name.
Do you think so?
There's a band called Steel Panther.
Now.
Yes.
But that was the original
back then,
name.
was it?
Back then, yeah. I don't even know where that came from. I don't know whose idea it was. But that was the name that were floating about, even like when working on a logo and things for it. You know, like your bands.
Yeah.
You see the Iron Maiden logo. You could write any word in that font.
Yeah.
And you'd know that was Iron Maiden.
Absolutely,
So we were working on stuff like that. And we were actually in... I think we was in a boozer. I know we were quite young, but we used to have a few drinks there, and then you could get away with it easier. We looked older them days.
Yeah.
But we was in a boozer, and the actual bandit, the one-arm bandit machine, slot machine thing, it said Excalibur on it. That was the name of the thing, so it just seemed right, you know.
And so you went like 14-year-old kids in whatever church hall garages rehearsing. Yeah. Where did your sound come from as the band? Where did that come from?
Well, the guys, originally we were a 4-piece band. We didn't have 2 guitarists to start off with. The lead guitarist, Paul Selinsky, who was an absolute genius. He still is to this day. He's an incredible musician. He was really into his rock stuff. He actually got the rest of the band into things that we'd not heard of.
Right.
You know, you'd heard of your obvious rock bands.
Yeah.
But when the more obscure ones started coming through, some of them obviously quite big now, like Metallica and things like that.
Yeah.
He kind of got us into that stuff, you know. So once we started listening to various styles in music, you start finding what fits you best. You start finding what your style,
of course,
what suits you. There's no point in going out trying to write a song sounding exactly like somebody else. I mean, sometimes a track comes along and it sounds, somebody will say, "Oh, that sounds a little bit like this track."
Yeah.
But I presume that's not done intentionally, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's how it was with us. We just listened to so many different styles of music, and then eventually found what we were into. And that was the kind of music of the bands that we were listening to at the time, like your Iron Maiden, your Def Leppard, Saxon, things like that. And some people have said we sound a little bit like them bands, and some people have said we sound like bands that we were never into and we never really listened to.
Because I suppose there's always there's those influences, your conscious and your subconscious influences that you take anyway. But you were one of the main songwriters, yeah?
Well, I did all the lyrics, I wrote all the lyrics, and I also did, obviously, the vocal melodies.
Yeah.
The guitarist, we all chipped in, to be fair, to write the songs, even lyrically, you know, like some lyrics have been written by other members in the band.
So was it, did the guitarist have a riff, and then you kind of worked around the riff, or could it have been anything?
We did it full time, so basically what it was, when we weren't touring, I mean, obviously in the early days, we were just getting together in like community halls, church halls, someone's
anywhere you could
bedroom, wherever you could get to rehearse and stuff like that. It didn't take us long really to find what direction we wanted to go in, because we did start writing songs quite early. Like we started off when we were 14, and I think we wrote our first song when we were probably 15.
Wow! And looking at your song choices we had for this, I suppose it's an honour of the styles that you were into at the time. You've chose Led Zeppelin, Rock and Roll.
Yeah, classic song.
It is fantastic. And Lynrd Skynrd, tell me a little bit about the Freebird.
Well, the reason about the Freebird, again going back to the band Excalibur, is in the guitarist, Paul Selinsky. I mean, the guy was so talented even as a kid when we first started off. And we did that song. We were still at school. We were playing it in pub gigs up and down the country. And people that were in the audience were just in awe at watching him doing it. They knew he was only a kid, and watching him do the guitar solo. And
he was like a virtuoso kind of thing.
It was, well, we all were. Every time we played, we you know, when he did a guitar solo, we'd all be like looking at him, giving it, wow, he's amazing. What's he doing in this band? But it was incredible. That song sticks with me, particularly for that reason, that he played it so well.
Yeah.
He'd put the guitar behind his head, he'd play it with his teeth, like as a show off, as you would when you're 40.
Because you did a lot of cover songs at the time.
We'd do a song like Lynrd, Skynrd, Freebird, and then the next song we'd do would be like Beatles, Hard Day's Night or something.
Was that for the pubs?
Yeah, but basically, when we started doing the pubs, we did have quite a lot of rock songs. There were some great rock bands around Bradford at the time when we were only little. We couldn't go into the pubs to watch them.
I can't remember. You were only like 14, 15
years old. We want obviously old enough to go in, but like some of the boozers, and when they're busy and they've got the windows open and you climb on the windowsill looking through, we're watching some great bands. A band called Tush that did ACDC covers. They were superb. So we used to go around trying to watch bands, and we couldn't get in the venues, but we did start playing the venues when we were like 14, 15. I remember doing pubs in Bradford when we were like packing the gear up at the end to go home and go to school the next morning. I remember that like yesterday.
So your two songs, we'll play your two songs So you went from, I suppose, 14, 15-year-old lads doing pub gigs, and you were obviously good, otherwise things wouldn't have progressed the way it did. What happened? How did you get from the 14, 15-year-old lads playing into the pubs to doing your stuff with Tommy Vance, doing things like that, almost nearly making it, so to speak? How did you get from there to there?
Well, the thing is, we loved touring, we loved going on tour, we loved gigging. At the end of the day, if you're stuck in a studio recording songs or stuck in a studio rehearsing songs, like when you're going to go out on tour, you go in, and even though you've played these songs a million times, you go in and you maybe rearrange where they're going to go and put your new songs in there. We always like gigging, and when you do gigs, people come to see you, whether you know they're coming or they don't come see you, A&R people and stuff like that. We played the Marquee in London several times.
And that's something as well. You know you're good when you play the Marquee.
Well, there's always... It's a place to be seen, as in, like, for people to go there, like, the A&R people. And
that's what happened, wasn't it? I remember you telling me that.
Well, what we did was we actually ended up doing a session on the Friday Rock Show with Tommy Vance. That were going for
Radio 1.
For years and years that were going. And we did the session on there, and it got such good feedback that I don't even know how this got decided, because it ended up from a company getting in touch with us. They'd been in touch with the radio station as well. They'd sorted out all the ins and outs so it could be released as a 4-track EP, I think it was.
Right.
Hot for Love.
Yeah.
And it was released as a 4-track EP. It did okay. We had a few other people looking around, knocking on doors and stuff.
Is that what that time was about? Them getting an EP out, so getting another A&R guys.
We just gigged that much. We were like constantly gigging. If we had to write, obviously we were stuck in a studio. Same goes for recording, but you don't record. You maybe record an album once every couple of years.
Yeah.
We were constantly rehearsing new material, constantly going out and doing gigs so that we could tighten it up live and stuff like that. And the more gigs you do, the more you get seen. And that's basically how we got. Obviously, we had a manager that put the ins and outs out and got in touch with the people that you should be doing. But you're lucky to get past first base with that. They usually listen to half a track, and they've got lots of things to listen to. It gets slunk
But let's be honest, we've got, just picking up here, we've got the album here, that there's the CD for One Strange Night. It was a big deal.
We're quite proud of that album. It's there's quite a few songs on it that were written even in the early days. Sick and Tired being one of them. That was one of the first songs we ever wrote, and it was great for it to go on an album 10 years after we'd wrote it.
And you've had this great kind of, not foreigner, but kind of like the Foreigner Toto, kind of that, no, not early...
Are you on about the look?
Yeah.
The bouffons.
The hair. Early Bon Jovi. You had that kind of look.
That was just a fashion at the time.
Of course it was, but you don't look like pigs. You look like you're a good-looking young lad. You seem to have a little bit of style about you. You seem to... Because that must have been a big help as well.
Well, as far as like
the whole package,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
you have to have an image, obviously.
Yeah.
Whatever that image is, you have to have one in music. If you're in a rock band, that's usually long hair, denim, leather, things like that. Obviously,
long hair, cowboy boots.
yeah, you can you can dress it up a little bit. I mean, we've been guilty of wearing spandex, and makeup. Not to the extent of like Kiss and things like that.
But eyeliner and blush.
Yeah, when you're under the lights and things,
exactly.
Apparently it helps if you wear makeup. But we kind of we want scruffy rockers.
Yeah.
We've got some heavy tunes in his arsenal, I suppose, and we've also got some ballads.
How would you say your style, Excalibur style, was? What was I know it was rock, but what was...
We were definitely...
hard rock, would you say?
Well, the new wave of British heavy metal, yeah. Definitely hard rock. We do have some, but like Caroline was released as a 12-inch single. That's a ballad. That was likened to like people like Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
That kind of style. Then you've got a song like Lights Go Down or Death's Door, and that's like proper metal chugging.
Yeah.
And that's more likened to your Metallica or whatever. You know, we it's people that give you a label. You never give yourself a label. People give you it. If somebody says that song sounds a bit like Bon Jovi in the 90s, then obviously that's fair enough, you know?
Yeah.
If somebody says you're a really heavy metal band because of songs like Lights Go Down, Death's Door, Fight, the opening song, then that's not entirely true because it's quite melodic as well. We have heavy moments, but a lot of melodic in there.
How many albums did you release or have together in total?
Well, as actual released albums, One Strange Night was the full album. That was the last release that we did. Before that, it was an album called The Bitter End. That was a mini album. There was 6 tracks on that. That's actually getting re-released this year.
There's a lot. There's quite a bit happening this year for you, isn't there?
It's new wave of British heavy metal's back in, and so it should be. I mean, we had a blast doing it in the day, and hopefully there'll be bands doing the same thing today.
Do you see a reunion? If it comes off? What, are you all a bit old? For that?
We're certainly a bit old for that, but obviously there's other bands, isn't there? You've got your bands like Rolling Stones, you know.
I said they're in the 70s / whatever age.
Rod Stewart still rocking it away, but they can, you know. They've not gone off the scene and come back. They've been on the scene consistently, so they can continue doing it until obviously the health lets them do that.
A question I wanted to ask you more than anything about your career is, do you regret not making it?
I regret leaving the band when I left the band. Yeah. I think if we'd have released the second album on Active Records, Music for Nations, if we'd have released that second album, which was going to be called Part of the Crime.
Right.
It wasn't so much an album like from start to finish that told a story, but like the songs that were written for that album were of a certain, you know, like to do with criminology and to do with
that theme or that theme running through it.
Yeah, things like that, you know. I'm disappointed that we didn't release that. The reason why it never got recorded was because I was leaving the band for nothing to do with the band, for other reasons. And when I was leaving the band, there was no point in me recording that album with the band, and then they get a new vocalist, go on tour, and it's a different singer. It makes sense for the new guy to record it.
Yeah. Do you think everything was set up for you to make it? Was it all, or had you just done all the hard graft? Do you think that album would have...
It was always an hard slog, Darren. As people say, you know, they say you've got to be in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of truth in that, of course there is, but also it's about commitment yourself, and we certainly think we give it a good go. We did. I think if we'd have released the album that we didn't, I think that might have took us to the next level. And
you got further than a lot of other people did as well.
Well, we supported some good bands on tour. We did quite a few dates with Saxon, bands like Uriah Heep, a metal band called Metal Church from America, a Japanese band called Vowwow. Absolutely amazing live band. I couldn't believe how fantastic they were live. I must have seen them about 8 times on that tour. Obviously, we were on first, and then when we finished, I'd head out into Hall, wherever it was. because they were just superb. You never got bored of watching them.
And the final part, I suppose, the final part of your career that I wanted to just quickly touch on was Tenerife. Obviously, this is why we're here. This is why we're recording sunny Tenerife. I'm not going to speak about the whys and wherefores, but the experience that you've had in Excalibur, I would say about 10% of people know about that.
It always comes up. It's not something I talk about, not because there's any particular reason I shouldn't talk about Excalibur. It was a great band. I enjoyed being in it, and we had some good times and stuff. It's just that was a thing of my past. And when I came out to Tenerife and stuff, it's irrelevant that I'd sang for a rock band called Excalibur for however many years, and it's because the thing I was doing out here was completely different to what I was doing there.
Yeah.
There's one thing I would love to do in Tenerife before I hang my microphone up, if you like, and that would definitely to be in some kind of rock band doing some songs out here. That'd be brilliant.
Oh, now there's
Absolutely
a thought.
brilliant.
There's a thought for us sometimes.
Well, you're a keyboard player, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. We've got a vocalist and a keyboard player.
Yeah. Now the two songs that we'll get on with the two songs. I wanted you to pick it from this album that you've got, One Strange Night, and the two songs that you've picked was Lights Go Down and Caroline. Lights Go Down. Why did you pick that?
Lights Go Down, one of my favourite songs with Excalibur. There's a few that I really like, but when we played live, that was one of them that really started the night off. You know, even though it was the opening song, it was about 2 or 3 songs into the set. It would just, once we got to that song, it would just, you knew that was what we did it for.
Yeah.
That song always made me smile, always.
And that's great. That's exactly why I ask these kind of questions. And the second song, Caroline.
Yeah.
The rip-roar of that one.
Well, that was released as a 12-inch single. It did quite well. I was speaking to you earlier, and I said that in the indie heavy metal charts at the time, it got to number 7. That's the one that people likened, or some people, to like a Bon Jovi style kind of thing. It's acoustic. In fact, the only electric guitar on that song itself is the guitar solos. Yeah. There's 2 guitar solos from 2 guitarists, but all the rest of it's done acoustically. And it was just one of them songs that it was a little bit different than what we used to do.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it's the soft side of Excalibur.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do. The soft side of Excalibur will be that first one. Are you still, would you class yourself as an old rocker now? Are you still the rock music?
I'm certainly an old rocker, without a doubt, yeah, mate, it's something that's never going to leave you, I suppose, you know what I mean? If you get into something from an early age, it kind of sticks with you forever. Rock music.
How the band's changed? Because you said it was T-Rex, and has that moved on? Because I know obviously rock music's your thing. But the bands that you've given as your favourites, I mean, let's talk about them. First of all, you had picked Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And you said you've seen them a few times.
Quite a few times.
That's a bit of a move on from T-Rex. We now start.
Well, it's a massive step forward.
Because they're very technical. Is it something that you love, watching the technical ability of musicians?
I do. I love the music. First of all, I love the songs that they do. I think there's no such thing as a boring Dream Theater song.
Very true.
It's like, and some. You could pause it, forward it, and when it gets to the next part, it's like a completely different song.
Yeah.
They keep you on the edge all the time. You don't know whether you keep you on that journey, you know. Dream Theater, obviously, very heavy.
Yeah.
But also very, very melodic, and like you could play a Dream Theater track. Spirit Carries On, and somebody would say, wow, that's completely different to this track by Dream Theater. Again, like Excalibur, we had like really rocky tracks, and we had some quite laid back stuff, you know.
Yeah, and you also we just talked about this Queensryche.
Queensryche, unbelievable. Although Queensryche obviously parted company with Jeff Tate, he was one of my most favourite singers of all time.
And he had an absolutely amazing voice. So,
incredible.
But has Queensryche stayed with you from the early days?
Without a doubt, yeah. As soon as I got into Queensryche from a young age, when Queensryche more or less first came onto the scene. Again, going back to when we were very young, the guitarist from Excalibur was so up on the new stuff that were coming out. He was listening to music that even DJs had not heard yet. Wow. You know, he was just so, and his brother, just very up on new things. And Queensryche were one of them bands at the time that came out. And as soon as I heard that voice, I wanted to listen to as much of it as I could.
And then finally, ACDC. Are we looking at young Bon Scott ACDC or?
Bon Scott were brilliant with ACDC.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, he was brilliant.
A totally different voice to Brian Johnson.
Yeah, very
different
different.
voice.
But the thing is, there's not many bands, if any, that once you get rid of the original vocalist or that original vocalist leaves or whatever, it's usually very difficult to replace because people are used to hearing songs. For example, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
You know, Freddie Mercury is a singer, although it has obviously been, you know, they've done music, they've gone out and done shows and things with various singers, and it still sounded all right. It's because it's Queen's music; it still sounds all right.
Yeah, they did Paul Rogers. They worked with Paul Rogers, but it was a separate show. But then Adam Lambert, was the, I would say, current.
I think Adam Lambert fits Queen fantastically. I think he's got an incredible voice, and because of the way that he is on stage, he's definitely a showman. He's definitely that kind of guy.
But he's not Freddie Mercury.
He's not Freddie Mercury.
This is the issue that I have, and this is the barrier that I've come to with Queen. Adam Lambert's great, but I still remember Brian and Roger Taylor.
Yeah.
But Queensryche, they for me, Foreigner, one of my favourite bands. Their new singer's been new singer been since 2005, Kelly Hansen, and I still think it's like the Jeff Tate thing. The change in singers, the songwriting stayed the same.
That is what.
I'm just about to ask you. Do you think that's a big thing?
It's an important thing, you know. If a band, for example, especially like changing a vocalist, if whatever band gets a new vocalist in, even singing the original songs that band used to do, if that vocalist sounds a completely million miles away from the guy who originally recorded the tracks, and then tracks are going to sound differently as well. People aren't going to listen to it in the same way. When you were speaking about the ACDC thing with Bon Scott and Brian Johnson, I do actually think ACDC were better with Brian Johnson.
Right.
A lot of people, I'm sure, would disagree with me with that, like the original ACDC fans. I love Bon Scott. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and the songs that he did with ACDC. But Brian Johnson can come into a band like that, re-record Back in Black or whatever particular song that Bon Scott did, and make it sound as good and sometimes
make it his own.
Yeah, make it his own.
And I think we'll leave you at this section with. Now, your favourites, I don't know if it was much of a change when you told me your favourites. Tears for Fears.
Great band. Always liked them.
What is it about them?
Well, first of all, brilliant songwriters. Absolutely fantastic albums that they've brought out over the years. Sowing the Seeds of Love being my favourite album. Spent a lot of time, well, that's the one with Alita Adams, where she was they were actually recording the album at the time. Yeah. And I think they were somewhere in France, Paris or somewhere, and she were playing the piano in a cafe bar whilst they were in there. And they were so impressed with her, they asked if she wanted to do some backing vocals and stuff on the album. And they were impressed with that, she ends up doing lead vocals on the album.
This is what I like about it, because you can speak to me about Total and I could tell you 101 on Journey, 101 things, and you'd go, bloody hell, I didn't know that. Yeah. And this is a thing, I kind of like finding out little things about these. And we'll talk about guilty pleasures, but they're kind of favourites as well, a little bit. And Tears for Fears, is that a band that's once again stayed with you?
I mean, obviously I was born in the 60s, like I said, so like round about in the 80s, there's a lot of great bands in the 80s, not just obviously on the rock side of things, a lot of good chart bands in the 80s, Tears for Fears being one of them. But again, there's certain bands that they do release, obviously, more commercial songs for radio play and stuff like that. But if you listen to that band's album, and as you'll know by listening to certain bands, especially like a band like Asia, people will know the more obvious songs. Well, they never heard of a particular song. If they heard it, they'd go, "Wow, that's amazing!"
Correct.
That's on this particular album, you know.
We mentioned it before with the other band, It Bites, that you chose about the lyrics.
Great lyricist, Francis Dunnery.
Is it a case of you've already said that you're grabbed by the tune? You're grabbed by the hook.
That's the
almost.
first thing you hear, isn't it?
And then is it the lyrics after that? As a songwriter as well, what do you think? Do you look for the hook first, and then do you go to the lyrics?
Well, usually, because obviously when the track actually starts, it's usually just a little bit of music, the intro or whatever. That has to catch your attention, of course it does. But lyrics are very important, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, people who listen to songs, sing all the way through it, and wouldn't even be able to tell you what the song was about.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I like to listen to songs and know what that song's about.
Should it have a structure then in that respect, lyrics, a beginning? I know the song has a beginning, middle, and end, but I'm saying, is that what...
That's the way I used to work.
Story.
You need to tell some kind of story within a time frame. Obviously, there's certain songs that can go on for 12, 14, 15 minutes. There's certain tracks that can go on for 20 minutes. Now, I know some people would be bored to listen to one track for 20 minutes, but when you listen to a band like Dream Theater or It Bites that go off on so many different journeys in that song, it's like listening to an album in one song. But lyrically, it's very important, I think, for the stuff that stands the test of time.
That's it. Yeah, that's a really good point. That a really good point, because we'll talk about your guilty pleasures, which we are going to play the songs from Tears for Fears, and It Bites, the same kind of as we said, the lyrics, not just known for calling all the heroes. Well, you said that was one of the cheesiest for them.
It's a good song. It's a good song for the charts, kind of thing. But there's a lot more songs that do more justice to It Bites if you pick up one of their albums and listen to it. Especially Once Around the World. That is an album you can put on from start to finish and love every track that comes on that album. So
this brings me to the final question I want to ask you then. If somebody had said that they want to be a songwriter, you've been there in terms of your own songs have been played in the market, you've had albums out, you might not have achieved the stardom, but the graft's been put in, and the end result has been the graft that you've done. You've shown the talent to release an album. So if somebody comes to you and says, right, Paul, I want to be a songwriter, what's the one piece of advice you would give somebody?
Don't ask me for advice. There's advice you can give anybody for lots of things. I think for songwriting, people are usually quite expressive, like a song's no different to a poem. If somebody can sit down and write, sometimes the rhyme, sometimes the don't. Again, it's actually more difficult to write a song that makes sense that doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
The only advice I'd give to anybody who's like writing songs now or thinking of writing songs, just be honest. Write songs, write lyrics that, I don't know, that mean something to you without being about you.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Everybody writes a love song or several love songs. Sometimes it's not even about anybody in particular.
Yeah.
Like the song Excalibur, Carol Ann. That is actually a song that's just a love song that's written about no one in particular. It's not something that happened to me in my life. It's something that happens to most people in their lives.
Yeah.
So that song's just about love. But certain songs need a story.
So
and without that story, without that story, then it's not making the same impact, is it?
Yeah, and that's all we've got time for. Paul Mack, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
That's great to see you as always, fella.
The music of your life with Darren Clark.
And held high, looking so fine. She talks with her eyes. That's how it is every single night.